What's cracking, guys? Omar Isaf here, back with another video, here with my main man, Silent Mike. Got a special guest today because we're talking all about the bench press. You see, you might think that we're a thing, but actually Mike has a girlfriend. Shout out to Sandino Marino. Sandino, wave your hand. How you feeling today? Give a thumbs up. She's been expressly told by Mike not to talk in this video, so we're talking for the rest of her life.
She's a mime.
You're Silent Sandy. Check this out, we're talking all about the bench press. You guys have asked us, we posted, what do you want to see us talk about? Which of the three movements? You said bench press, probably because Mike benches 405. So let's...
Actually, I brought it up.
You brought it up.
It's one of Sandy's weaknesses.
Yeah.
Which I think is a lot of people like, man, I can deadlift 500 pounds, I can't even bench 315, what do I do?
Oh, no, 100%. And the answer is, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Time to add some size. Sandy benches 145, which is good.
In competition.
Yeah.
So a legitimate one.
Unlike mine is the bounce and go. So go ahead, Mike, and take it away with some of the bench press tips.
So although you guys think you're a beautiful, unique little snowflake, today we're going to talk about dealing with the cards you've been dealt. So Sandy has some flexibility issues. She works a regular job. She's a regular human. She is a competitive powerlifter, but she's not going to the Olympics. You know why? Because powerlifting's not a real freaking sport. So what she's
Mike, a lot of heat.
Instead of focusing on the arch and laying on a basu ball and turning upside down and doing all these things.
Ball?
Isn't it a basu ball?
Bosu ball, but let's go.
In America, we call them basu balls. Instead of doing all that and worrying about lumbar flexion and thoracic mobility, we're gonna just build up more muscle so she can bench more. Same thing with these other issues. One major issue she's had for a long time is kind of hand position, wrist position, which Omar's gonna look at and see a little bit. So go ahead and do like 3 reps.
Yeah.
This is a little bit light, obviously, so maybe the issues won't be as apparent as normally they are.
Yeah. Well, look at those triceps, though.
Actually, the issues are pretty good again because they are light.
Yeah.
But what tends to happen as she starts to do more and more reps, heavier and heavier weight, and she starts to get cocked back a little bit.
Yeah, so what ends up happening with Sandy, that's why we have the wrist wraps. Mike's gonna show how to use those wraps. Are wraps necessary? No, but for some individuals, it could be a flexibility thing, could be mobility, could be positional, where just when you feel the weight, and sometimes you'll notice this, actually, there was that study that your technique changes as the weight gets heavier. A lot of times you'll find people go from a stack position, so the wrist is relatively neutral, and then it's underneath the elbow, everything's kind of lined up like that, underneath the bar stack, to where we get the hand, let's see the wrist, where it gets cocked back like that when the weight gets heavier and heavier, and so the bar is behind her, and that's just gonna throw her completely out of position. There's a few ways to try and fix this. We can try and think of that cue of externally rotating to really pull the bar apart so we get the wrist, if it's like this, we pull it a little bit just to rotate with the elbows so we get that stack. But we also, once again, because she's a busy person, she has a real job, she's not a fake, what do we say, social media lifter like us. So there are ways you could do it. If you can't fix it with just technique alone, we could wrap up. Mike, show us how to wrap it up.
So basically, the main thing is you want to kind of wrap your hand more than you want to wrap your actual wrist. So you want to wrap starting about halfway up, and then I'll just cut the material in half. I'll get a good, nice grip here. I'm going to wrap one, and then I'm going to, each swipe, I'm just going to go half all the way down so I get a little bit of wrist, go back up a little bit, and that's it. Notice that when I wrapped it, I was a little bit cocked the opposite way, because then once that weight goes and you're fully unwrapped, now I'm in a straight line and I don't have to worry about it. The wrist, as Omar said, plays the role of our torso in the squat. So no one would ever say to squat like this or like this. So why are we benching with the weight way behind our movers? Triceps, shoulders, pecs are our movers. Our legs are the movers in the squat. And then this is kind of that transition into the weight. Another thing, like I said, we already mentioned the arch a little bit with Sandy, and Omar was joking, but she does have large triceps. Yeah. And that's because she's built them up because she doesn't have a mega arc. And so instead of...
Bodybuilder.
So instead of wasting time like, oh, range of motion and technique, yes, she has fairly good technique, but we're dealing with the card she's been dealt. So she built up her arms, she's built up her shoulders, and you just got stronger. Oh, I missed off my chest. Oh, I missed up here. You know why you missed a lift? Yes, we have some weak points, but it's just because you're not strong enough for that lift right now, or perhaps your technique isn't ready for that weight, as you mentioned.
Yeah, just keep getting stronger over time. And I think that's a really good point. We could talk about leverage versus trying to find the best position for you to be in or where you're strongest. So for some people like myself, some people leave that comment about, Omar, why don't, if you're trying to do like powerlifting, why don't you have more of an arch on your bench press? It's like, it has to also do with what feels most comfortable. So for her, she's built up more muscle mass because getting in that position, maybe it bothers her lower back. Maybe she feels she loses tightness. For some people, they can't find, they get that scapular retraction. Just they lose it the more they try and decrease the range of motion. So there's a trade-off between range of motion and then where you have the most optimal leverages and what you can build up with the body that you got.
Yeah, instead of pointing to the stars of the best benchers in the world and saying, oh, this guy does this, which doesn't always work, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
those are the outliers. In this case, it semi-does. Mark Bell, very big bencher, raw and geared, pretty flat back. Eric Spoto, in comparison, obviously the arch is relative. Compared to Kirill Sarachev, two of the best benchers in the last decade, Kirill's very arched. Eric Spoto is very not. And they both have big arms, but Spoto's triceps are probably the biggest triceps ever been on the planet, and so is Mark's, right?
Exactly.
His arms literally look like our legs. And so instead of him focusing on arching, he just built up his body. The other thing we've done with Sandy recently is moved her grip out a little bit, something that first kind of rubbed me wrong, but once you start to, context is everything. Shaco has said, don't quote me because there's translations. And
Direct quote.
Yeah, but basically he said his bench is wide as you can.
Yeah.
And you know, when you first hear that, like, well, the legal mark is here, we'll just all bench here. And that's not necessarily where it goes. But I think as wide as you can with feeling comfortable, although powerlifting and benching can feel uncomfortable at first. So when I say feel comfortable, give it 4 to 6 weeks of testing. But it will also, again, reduce that range of motion. And as long as it doesn't hurt your shoulder and as long as you can adjust to it, I think over time you will be a better bencher with a slightly wider grip. Now, some people are very stocky, huge arms.
Very
naturally.
tricep dominant.
If you're built to bench naturally, you could probably get away with any grip, and I think that's the main argument. Same with the close stance squat. We're like, well, all these weightlifters, like those guys' femurs are this big.
Yeah,
They've
short,
been squatting for 10 years.
Long torso, short femur, perfect squat.
If they did it 10 years ago with the wider squat, they'd also be very good squatters.
They could kill anything.
Right,
Yeah.
guys, Ed Cohn kind of built a deadlift, crushes sumo, crushes conventional. So some people are just built that way, but I think for the average, the wider you can get comfortably and safely, the better off you're gonna be.
Absolutely, yeah. Just taking a look, like Jeremy Hamilton's a great example, where he's just a beast. He benches, I think, relatively close, but he's just so strong.
Huge pecs, huge back, pretty stumpy bicep in terms of length.
Yeah. Yeah, so you got to work with what you got. So the 3 things, guys, that we talked about today, we talked about wrist position. You want to make sure that you're stacked, so you're making sure the bar is underneath you. Try and externally rotate, so pulling the bar apart. If you can't do that, then do consider wrist wraps. They definitely can assist you. We also talked about the arch, how much arch is necessary for the individual. We talked about leverage versus range of motion, how it's a trade-off. Sometimes when you try and get more of that arch, you'll end up actually losing some of that leverage. You don't feel as tight, not as stable. So it's not always about trying to decrease the range of motion. I know powerlifting kind of gets a bad rep where people will say, you know what, like, yeah, it's all about trying to decrease that range of motion, like squat only as high as you have to go or low as you have to go, right? And then lastly, we also talked about hand position, how far when it comes to grip. If you're currently bench pressing, I bench press, I'd say medium grip. You recently moved out to a wider grip, and you're saying it's feeling good. That experiment with different grip widths, but as Shaco says, probably for the individual, as wide as comfortable, not as wide as possible, as wide as comfortable to still have a good bench press.
Another thing that's helped me a lot when I'm setting up for the bench is obviously everyone has different hands and size and meat and paws. I have pretty fat little mitts, but what's helped me is I try to set it up in the meat, almost like I'm going to do the suicide false grip, and then at the last second I will wrap my thumbs around. So again, if I get it in the meat of my hand, it's automatically over my wrist. What happens is it'll start to get out here, and if you have a big hand or a small hand, technically actually if you have a small hand it will be easier because you have less mitt, the bar is going to be stuck in there. Yeah, if you have a longer hand it might start creeping up. But basically what I'll do is I'll do it backwards for you, is I'll mitt it up, I'll get set, and then I'll grab the bar, and then I'll barely wrap my thumb around. And so right now, I'll do it from the other angle as well for B-roll, but you're in the meat, I'm in the meat, so I'd false grip like this, and that's why I think people like the false grip is they feel strong there because it's straight in line with their wrists. And instead of doing that, because it is dangerous, now I'll just wrap my thumb around at the end. So she'll put it in her meat, and then she'll wrap her thumb around, keeping it in her meat. And bench from there, you can see it's all stacked.
And that's how you bench 600. Ready to load it up, Sandy? Yeah. Well, guys, that is all the time we have. You want to know more bench press tips. We broke down grip, grip width, back position, a whole bunch of different things. If you like these videos, technique videos, featuring myself and Sal, make sure to like the damn video. Let's get 3,000 likes. We'll make another technique video. Post below what you want to see next. Last thing that I want to say, I want to give a quick shout out. You probably know this, myself, Silent Mike, Bart Kwan, we formed Kaizen training programs. So far, thousands of people have gone on our training programs, are getting great results. You people have been asking us, hey man, when are you going to do more like coaching, some form of coaching? And with us, we decided to do gangbang coaching, group coaching, our favorite style, group coaching, which means that you guys can get great coaching for a really low cost. We just launched it. We're only taking, probably by this time is up, this video's out, it'll probably be sold out, who knows, 200 people. We're gonna be taking a look at your form, you do an email check-in, a whole Facebook group. We're gonna help get you strong. If that's something you've been interested in, we get probably, what, 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
People asking us when you're gonna do it. Now's the time. Link is in the description. Sandy, do you give it a thumbs up?
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. 2. Yeah, for one, we got 2.
Not 3, but 2.
Do better next time. Anyways, group coaching, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check it out. Link is in the description. Make sure also to check out my boy's channel, Silent Life. That is also in the description. And we'll be seeing all you guys, my rascal, in that next video. Peace.
Eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables, eat your fucking vegetables.